Hi everyone, this is Killshot99 Dead, and this is The Walking Dead Season 9 Major Whisperer Drama. We've got a lot of things to talk about tonight, and I am going to unveil and I'm pretty sure about this one, that I know who this Whisperer is behind the mask. I was looking over this, watching the video, and it wasn't the walk, it was something in the eyes, and I'm like, you know what, I have seen this before, I've seen it over and over again. And I'm going to make a bold prediction tonight. So before we get into that, I am just going to super chat out here. Valar, thank you so much for that super chat. Valar says hello to 999 Army. Kill Steph, Kales, Emmy, Sweet Tommy, sponsors, patrons, and of course, all the super chats. And as you guys can see, super chat is live and in effect. I've heard a lot of different predictions out there. I've heard there's an article out there saying this is Rick, and Rick is transitioning over to the movie, and he's back, he's not back, it's not Rick. And of course you can see Julia Muse is saying Negan the hero, and it's Negan is a bold prediction by a lot of people that is out there. But I will say I think when you see this picture, it's going to hit home to you. I don't want to jump right into it yet, because you know what? We got a lot of people here, and I think we need to pike the like button early on. We're going to pike the like button. I put the picture up there of Negan, and some people are saying, hey, KCF's like, hey, it does look like Negan. If I took that picture of Negan down, and you just looked at this person, and let me say this. This is a person that I feel like I watched on a show for about 5 years, maybe 6 years, religiously watched on this show. And I'm going to go ahead and put another picture beside it. You guys can let me know what you think. But I saw this and then it hit me like, wait, this is this person. Let me find a picture that is close to it. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and show you. We'll talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to say this is, in my mind, and without a doubt, I think this is, wait for it. I think it's the cowboy. I think it's Silas Weir Mitchell. Monroe from Grimm, you probably know him better as. He is 6'3", so he's not a small dude. I know a lot of people, when they saw this Whisper, they were like, hey, that dude's pretty tall. So 6'3", I think, qualifies for that. Drama said it a little bit ago. But if you look at the eyes, it says a lot with the eyes. Take a look at Monroe on the right and take a look at this dude's eyes. Look at his facial features. I'm pretty sure that that this is him. Well, look, this is I'm going to say Monroe probably bulked up a little bit. He's not doing Grimm, but look at the eyes, guys. I mean, that if you just take that section, I think it leads to something bigger. And now I do think that we have validation that the cowboy is a Whisperer. And I think that was a rumor. It was something that was talked about a little bit. You can see his lips as well. I'm not going to go into the beard, but that is a little bit creepy to me, that the cowboy is up there at the fair, Alpha is up there at the fair, and this guy's just kind of walking along afterwards. So I don't know. I don't know what other people are saying, but when I saw this dude and I got a still of it and it turned around, I'm like, you know when something feels familiar. And I watched this show so much. It was actually one of my favorite shows. You know what? I'm not even addressing that. So let's say, for sake of argument now, that we feel like this is Monroe, or we feel like this is someone that is at the fair. We can probably start to, our funnel theory, we like to drill it down a little bit. So I think now we can sort of piece together some of the events from the fair. We've heard them talk about it. Now, it has to be a very, very big deal. This fair, this event, I know we thought it was going to be something, but now that you got confirmation that Alpha's there, the cowboy very likely could be Monroe, very likely could be a Whisperer. They're getting to know these people there's some depth to it. So this to me looks like an ambush. And I know we've talked about something happening, people dying, maybe Ezekiel. I would not be surprised if they're there to take down one of the leaders. And as much as it is talked about and as important as it is to Ezekiel, I'm feeling like the best way to get everyone kind of going in different directions and confused is to take out one of the leaders. If something major does not happen at this fair, and I mean a major death, I think it's a missed opportunity. Oh, I mean, that's a whole different question. Whose skin that could be, whose face that could be. I don't know. I don't know that I want to get that far into it. I haven't went all CSI into, who they could have skinned. I just don't know I'm ready for all that quite yet. You know what? I'm going to put it back up there because, I want you guys to see the difference. But pay attention to the eyes. I don't see anything to me that says that's Negan's eyes. I just don't see it. Don't see it around the lips, around the mouth. When I started hearing people say, one, it's Rick and it was wishful thinking, I'm like, no. First of all, that's impossible. Number two, it's not Negan. It's you can't make that into Negan. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull up Monroe from Grimm one more time so you guys can do the comparison. And you guys can check it out too as well. I mean, there's other pictures out there, obviously, of him in costume. But when it kind of hit home for me that I recognized the face before I even, when you're thinking about something, it's like, I know who that is. I know who it is. Hang on. And then I didn't put the picture side by side. I did that afterwards to validate it. It was kind of in my head like, that's Monroe. That looks like Monroe to me. Good. I mean, if you only focus on the eyes, I think you'll kind of get it there. Let me jump into a little bit of the storyline because this is where it gets a little bit confusing, and I don't, full disclosure, you guys know I don't know every event from Negan joining the Whispers. I know an overview and kind of how it happened and some of the events and why he got in, why he got along, why he didn't get along. It seems like the timetable is going to be a little bit different. There's the potential that Daryl could take a little bit of Dwight's comic book arc, with Dwight kind of showing up with the militia. And I don't know it's going to go kind of line by line with the comic. But in the comic, Negan does join up with the Whispers. He learns a little bit about them. And then, there's some disagreements. Beta is pretty jealous that Negan and Alpha start hitting it off. She even, invites him to dinner. They eat together. Some things go down. But he's trying to prove himself that he fits in. I mean, there's this sort of this rite of passage for him to be a part of that group. I'm just, you know what? Some of the comments and speculation. Well, you know what? We'll take odds on it. And I'm going to take odds and say that I am 100% convinced that that's who this is based on my site. If you disagree and you can find another actor or a person that you think fits the bill a little bit more, I typically don't think Walking Dead does 15, 20-second clips and say, you know, this is going to be a head turner and it's just some random walker stumbling through the woods. And, you know, they don't always tell the full tale of the story, but the relevance to me is that this is not a random whisperer walking through the woods. This is somebody that we will recognize. This is somebody that is going to be a part of the bigger picture. And I know that's why people jumped all over and said it's Negan. You know, and I was okay with a little bit of it could be Negan until I looked at it. When you look at the face, it's not Negan. But there's still some speculation out there just because they want that storyline to happen and they want him to sort of blend with the group. But even in the teaser that we saw, we don't, I mean, it looks like there's going to be several Whisperers that are going to this fair. Now, the question I have for the group, have the communities grown that much? I mean, where are all these people coming from the fair that they're not going to be a little bit intimidated, a little bit concerned that some strangers just show up? Especially with all the creepy stuff they've been hearing. That's the part of the story that I'm really struggling with. I mean, are there that many communities that have formed that we don't know about at this point? They're just kind of popping up all over the place, and Ezekiel throws this get-together. Hey, come on in, weary traveler. Yeah, I mean, Casey, I agree with that. Jerry kind of gave him a look like, who are you? But I guess in fairness, the groups have not interacted that much, so, you know, they could have taken in some different people. Seems a little odd. Scott Kernan with Super Chat. Scott is asking the question. Kills, my main question is, do you think Rosita and Henry are dead at the end of the season? Also, do you believe Season 8 sucked or it was okay? Scott, that's not a main question. That's a two-part question. But I'm going to answer both parts. I think Henry is definitely dead by the end of the season. I have no doubt Henry's gone. Rosita, I'm going to say no to Rosita. I feel like there will be another pretty main character, whether it's Ezekiel, whether it's Father G, but I think Rosita is going to be spared. I got a feeling her popularity on the show. I know that's not always a protected status, but I think they'll keep her around a little bit longer. It's just a feeling. I don't have any basis for that. And Season 8. No, I don't think it sucked. I think 9 is better. I'm going to be honest with you, Scott. I don't think I've ever watched a season of The Walking Dead that I thought was bad. But I do acknowledge there are some seasons better than others and deeper storylines. And when you get into 8 and you've got like all these different stories and you got Oceanside and you got Kingdom and everything sort of spread out. And then you got Shiva dying, and then you got, the saviors back and forth and the power. I thought I thought 8 was better than 7. I think 7 was worse than 8 in my opinion, but I don't think it was bad. Yeah, well, some people agree. It looks like, Julia's saying 8 was better than 7, 9's better than... I thought you were going to say, why was 6 afraid of 7? See, we had some agreement out there. The thing with 8 was all the... just all the wild cards and the way they... One, all-out war might have went on too long. And it's rare you say this. Like, something went on too long, but yet it ended too abruptly. And I know that sounds, I guess, kind of like a... Would that be an oxymoron? Maybe. But I know that sounds like whatever part of speech I'm trying to relay to you guys. But did you feel like that? Like, it went on too long, but then they killed it too fast at the same time? Because of Chandler and because of some of the other issues? That it almost seemed like the story, okay, kill Simon, kill Carl, let Rick do whatever they're going to do, and then the season's over. That was kind of my take on it. Scott Kernan says, with a super chat, it's funny how Gimple wrote 2 of the best seasons, 4 and 5, and 2 of the worst seasons, 7 and 8. I wouldn't disagree with that at all, Scott. I think you're right on point. But the thing that I would also tell you is the creative element, it gets harder and harder to just nail it every time. Just to have an innovative storyline. And one thing that I will say this about Gimple, knowing when to step aside, I think it was one of the smartest moves he's ever made. I think Angela Kang has done an amazing job, but that didn't just happen by chance. I mean, it happened by him realizing that they needed a fresh take and a fresh perspective of the show. Scott with a follow-up says, 9:05 could have been Season 8's finale. I'm trying to draw the comparison of that because Season 8's 9:05 is the when the Saviors kind of broke in and the fireworks were going down and everybody was hidden down in the tunnel. I do think I'm not opposed to the way Season 8 ended. I'm actually okay with that. I think there was enough of the I think it was before that I had a real problem with it. I think the Rick and Negan standoff, the bullets, but the exploding bullets was like the world's worst spoiler. I mean, it was so bad, I don't think anybody knew or anybody felt. Sometimes when there's a spoiler, people are like, okay, well, maybe the spoiler's wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. Scott, you said 9:05. I'm thinking 8:05. I'm thinking that could have been. All right. Yeah, let me get my seasons up to date. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking the Carl, but that was later on. So Rick's exit could have been the Season 8 finale. Well, you still would have had to cram that time skip into Season 8. And I guess there was so much that they had to prepare for, and the actors changing and building the bridge. Yeah, I mean, it's perspective. But yeah, I mean, kind of back to season 8. I didn't have a problem with the way it ended. It's just it had some things that they were spoiled like long in advance. But there were a couple things that were incorrect. I'll give you this. So in season 8, and we did a video on it, we talked about it because evidently there was the exploding bullets, but the spoiler information that initially came out said that there was a second lineup. And it wasn't whether or not Negan was going to kill Father G or whether or not he was going to kill Eugene. And there were a lot of people kind of pushed back and said, oh man, they're not going to do another lineup. And I don't know if you guys remember, we discussed that kind of at length, but that's the word that was out there. So part of it was out. I think the bullets, though, everybody had a good feel with that. The second lineup, there was just some skepticism. Yeah, the Simon killing all of Jadis's group was also out there pretty early, but the Negan killing Simon was not spoiled that early. I think of all the things that the Carl death was pretty good as far. Not I'm not saying it was good. Don't leave yet. The Carl death was pretty well concealed. I'll put it that way. And the Simon death was relatively well concealed as well. So I think the Carl death would have been a little bit more shocking if people weren't talking about it all season. Because they were talking about variations of it. It was just a rumor that caught wind. It wasn't a confirmed spoiler. And I wish Simon would have just left. When Simon started talking about conquering other communities, I wished he would have left and went to Fear. So, Scott says, funny how the Saviors were interesting in season 6. Well, that's kind of what happens, I guess, when you drag something out for 3 years. Is people just aren't afraid of them anymore. I mean, even in season 9, when Jed and company, they started pulling knives and pulling weapons, I think it was more people were tired. Negan's in jail. This is a rogue group. And I think when Carol burned them all, it was just more of a relief. Like, okay, they're the outcasts now. Nobody wants to help them. We don't know if we like them. We don't know if we want to get rid of them. Should we help them? Should we not help them? Maggie's not going to help them. Rick wants to help them. The story just got tired. And that's why I said I think they drug it out too long, and then the conclusion was very choppy. We got to get Negan in prison. We got to get that taken care of. We got to find a way that all these people start to like each other to a certain degree. I mean, they did okay with it. I mean, I'm not saying we could have done any better with our story, because it's just, it's real actors in real life, and some of them have to go. Carol did for a wedding ring what Rick was not able to do for the lives of Glenn and Abraham. Does that bother anybody just a little bit? Just, that's I understand why. But you would think at some point, I mean, Rick has snapped a couple of times. You'd think that maybe. Yeah, Jesus trying to save all the saviors too. And the thing is, 1 minute Rick is murdering. So I guess in hindsight, Carl's legacy, Rick feeling guilty about killing those saviors that kind of, they were going to help him out. I guess, at that point, he just changed. We can see you. We can see you loud and clearly. So some interesting news that did come out this week. Well, I guess it's, once again, it's perspective, how interesting it is. But Angela Kang does like to give us a little bit of breadcrumbs here and there. And for the Whisper fans out there, Mystics, Gamma, Omicron, you guys know, Beta, Chosen One, all of you are Whisper subs. Angela Kang said, we are going to get into the psyche of Alpha and find out what makes her tick. And it's going to happen relatively early. So they're not going to waste any time beating around the bush to figure out what her motivation is and how strong of a leader she is. So this was kind of, I don't know if you could call it a bold prediction, but it is certainly something that I was out in front of very early and said there will be no gray area with the Whispers. If they make them even somewhat questionable in their evil motives and validate anything that they do to where, like they did with us, this is, some of it is the nature of the comic. Okay? When you know Negan is bad, and then ultimately, like, when Negan had kind of on the TV show, had just sort of taken out Glenn and Abraham. He had not killed Alpha yet in the comics. Still a little ways away from that. But people had seen the transition of Negan. So the ones that had followed the comics and started to talk about it, they already had kind of like many of us have done on the television show, right? We were very irate. We hated Negan. We despised him. And the comic book fans were already turning the corner and like, okay, well, you'll know. Negan's not as bad as you think he is. No. I'm only watching the TV show. I'm not reading the comics at this point. He just bashed in Abraham, which I will give him a pass for that because the biggest and the baddest needed to die. But then he just beat Glenn and laughed about it and danced about it. And I just saw him as pure evil, whereas the people watching the TV show, they're already one step ahead of us because the comic, and they've already given him a little bit of a pass. So my point to this is the Whispers cannot be that. And from talking to the hardcore graphic novel fans, they do validate that, no. Negan was brutal in his heyday, but he came around. The Whispers are not going to give you any quarter. They're not going to bend at all. And the TV show needs to hold true to that evil character. If they don't, it's a tremendous miss. And by Angela Kang saying that we're going to get into the psyche of Alpha, that to me was all the validation I needed that, okay, this chick is twisted and there's no coming back from this. Westwood Chronic says, what makes Alpha tick? Her quest to figure out how Enid got those balloons to float in season 6 with no helium. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe did we ever see Enid blow up the balloons? See, now you got me, Westwood. You got me kind of thinking. Is it assumed that there was a helium tank somewhere to the side? At this point, I remember seeing the balloons, and I remember the balloons flying up in the air. I don't remember if I physically saw her blowing up the balloons. But now I'm going to go back and look. You definitely got me. You definitely got me curious about that. The only thing that would make me wonder if there really was a helium tank. Now, if Enid and Glenn were talking, and they were talking like Roger Rabbit in a really high-pitched voice, then we'd had clarity. We would know that there was a helium tank. But the question of the day, and we'll do some research. We'll figure it out. William Finney, super chatting, says she has probably been through the same or worse than Carol and just snapped and never came. William, don't do it. Don't do it. See, this is what cannot be allowed to happen. Is William Finney is giving her the probably, and she snapped. And see, you're opening the door for the slightest little bit of sympathy. I'm not giving it to her, but I'm just saying that something happened to her and she lost it. So if something did happen to her, I don't want to know it. I don't want even the slightest bit of a backstory. I don't want to know that she was in a bad relationship. I don't want to know she lost a child. I don't want to know. I need, from what I've understood in the comic and what I feel like is going to happen in the TV show, she needs to carry out whatever act her character so chooses, but the retribution for that act needs to be appropriate. And I don't want to kind of say, well, because I will. That's the problem. I will look for any, if the Walking Dead writers and any of you give me the slightest little hint that there could be more to it, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I don't want to give her the benefit of the doubt. We got Mystics with a little Q&A. Says, Kills, if I can remember in the comics, I think Lydia comes to our side. Do you think they'll do that in the show? Not if Henry becomes a street sign. So, you kind of feel like Henry and Lydia hit it off, kind of the way that Carl and Lydia hit it off. But the way the rumors are out there, that if Henry is in fact not going to make it, I don't know that arc is going to play out. And Daryl's a wild card too, because Daryl's not in the comic, obviously, but the fact that Lydia is trying to recruit Daryl, that just kind of, it tells me, once again, it's a treasure map, it's not a road map. The arc is going to be there. Some of the characters are going to do some of the things. I don't think all of the deaths are going to happen exactly the way the comic book deaths happen. But I don't think that they're opposed to at least giving the comic book fans one. And that's why, another reason why I don't think it'll be Rosita and Ezekiel, but I do think it'll be Ezekiel. And I think it's going to be Ezekiel because of the fair, and I think it's going to happen at the fair, and everybody's going to, it's going to put them in panic mode. Westwood Chronic, super chatting, says, if the Whisperers kill Henry, do we get a Carol versus Alpha knife fight? Westwood, I think that is a question for season 10. Because I do feel like that, I feel like the Henry death scene and anything that goes down with Henry, I don't have any validation for it. I haven't seen it as a confirmed spoiler. But in playing out the fair and the episodes, and the Whisperers have to do some evil acts. I don't think it can just be, yeah, they kill a couple and then we're on the fence. I literally get it, on the fence. I'm going to be here all week. But I don't think it's just going to be one or two little things and then we're wondering what's going to happen in season 10. I think the back half of this is going to be about brutality and bloodshed. And 15 and 16, I feel like, are going to be about the capture of Michonne, Daryl, and Carol. And 16, I think it's just going to be the Boarders, the Pikes, and maybe a small Negan teaser that perhaps he could be the person to help out in season 10. And I don't know that. I mean, it's the way it's sort of playing in my head. But yes, I mean, could something happen to Henry and Carol just lose it? Sure, but will it happen this season? I hope not, because I really want this Whisper arc to be good, and I want it to be better than All Out War. But there's going to have to be some leverage. And then this militia thing, you know, how this militia forms. Who's going to be in the militia? Dwight's not going to be there. So the spoilers that are out there, they feel semi-accurate. It's kind of back to the point we made earlier. When we knew that the exploding bullets would happen, that felt right. But when we heard the second lineup, that didn't feel right. And the spoilers that I've heard is that it's going to be, 6 people that are going to die. But we've also heard that Carol, Daryl, Michonne are all taken prisoner. Something about that, to me, might not be accurate. You know, maybe Daryl and Carol are taken prisoner. Or maybe Michonne and Daryl, and Carol's on the loose. It's just those three, when I heard that, just sort of seems a little too powerless, I feel like. I just don't know where the leadership's going to come from if the three of them are taken hostage. And Randy, see, that's what I was thinking, is one of those three has to be the hero. But if not, then I feel like 16 is going to show a whole lot of death and a whole lot of helplessness. I mean, you know, they're going to be tied up, can't do anything. And then we're really going to need, Aaron, I think, Casey, that's a good point. Aaron, Negan. Here's something to kind of think about. If Daryl, Michonne, and Carol are all taken captive, and Ezekiel is dead, could you see Aaron seeking out Negan and possibly, because Aaron is the one that's most like Rick. Aaron is the one that's probably going to carry the legacy. Could you see Aaron trying to find Negan and then two of them sort of working together and ending the season on that note, where it's not completely despair, but a little bit of positive vibe, like, okay, We're going to get them next season, kind of like that. You know, when your team loses and you're not depressed about your team losing, like, no, we got a good team. We'll come back. Maybe that's a play out. I'll stick with it until we can come up with something better. It'll be one of 3 or 4 theories. Because Aaron is, right? Aaron's a peacemaker with like a robo arm. Aaron looks more like Rick than Rick looked like Rick. Aaron's arm looks more like Rick's arm than Rick's arm looked like. Yes, you understand what I'm saying. Visually, it's not hard to see Aaron as comic book Rick. Personality-wise, they're different. But, we don't know. I mean, a time skip could have changed Aaron. Hey, a second time skip and losing your arm, I heard will make you change personalities. I like that. Damon Dorizio. Okay. I'm going to take Damon's idea here and see what you guys think about that, because I've been struggling with the fate of Negan and Lucille. And I thought, maybe from a symbolic standpoint, Negan will bury Lucille and he'll move on, and we don't have to kind of see that and get that reminder. But what do you guys think about that? That Aaron might actually have Lucille, take Lucille, whatever, and do kind of just that. Like, Negan gets his bat back, and now it's Negan's turn to come help. Yeah, that has a good feel to it. I do like that. I'm not going to hijack your credit. If it happens that way, man, I would love it. And we'll say we discussed it here first. So then you get Negan back on your side, and you also get his weapon. And I think the crowd would be, well, right, Tommy, how Negan got his groove back. So, just a question for the Army. And some of you don't have to answer, because some of you may not have a problem with Negan having Lucille. I just happen to be one of those people that does. However, if Aaron kind of said, here, we need you, how many people would be okay in that regard only if someone like Michonne or someone like Aaron or someone like Daryl actually kind of directly gave Negan permission to use his bat? As a viewer, would you be a little bit more desensitized to it, seeing him do that? Or is it all bets off? Look, I don't want to see a dude using the bat no matter what. I can't take it. Or are you okay if he uses it either way? I mean, one of those three. I think I would be okay. It's kind of like when Maggie let Negan live. To me, that was the last little bit of closure I think I needed with Negan. It's like, if Maggie's not going to kill Negan and Maggie's going to leave, then why should I want him dead? Just kind of curious. We're all over the place. We got Lucille should be destroyed. Some people are okay either way. Lee, that question has been posed by several people. I know even the Cuervo Queen has brought that up a couple times. If you look at the possibility, okay, let's look at this from 2 different ways. We'll do the real side and the TV side. Is there the possibility that a real person could become obsessed with power and revert back to their old ways? Absolutely. Is there a possibility the writers who control this fictitious character are going to have Negan turn evil again when it's taken 2 years for the audience to start to accept and trust him, I would say no. Emphatically not. Because I think it's too hard of a story. Now, the only asterisk I would put beside that is a couple more seasons down the road. Maybe. So now, no. In the immediate future, no. The story dries up a little bit, and they need to kind of bad Negan, good Negan, let's go full circle, and then let's have evil Negan that finally, loses it 100%, goes to power again, and then somebody takes him out once and for all. Sure. I'll give you that. But I wouldn't expect it anytime soon, because I think it is an emotional roller coaster. But if they ever make Negan a villain again, they're killing off his character. That I will tell you. They're not going to make him a long-term accepted evil entity. If they make him evil again, look for him to be leaving the show for good. See, Randy, that's the part that we have to be careful, because Morgan leaves, Dwight ends up in Texas. Rick leaves, Negan ends up finding Rick in a movie and Rick kills him. There's only so much as a viewer that I can accept from a coincidental standpoint. I'll still watch the show. But The Walking Dead is one of those shows that I don't enjoy criticizing, because I think that the writers do a very respectable job of trying to make it believable. But when you're just stuck and you start making a bunch of stuff up, for example, I'm not sure how I feel about this whole Troy thing, him coming back. But I've kind of learned that Fear of the Walking Dead has just become Fear of the Walking Coincidence. That when I watch the show, there's a different expectation. It's not bad, but it's different. And they are transitioning it. There's a transition to it becoming a little bit more funny. They can't do that with The Walking Dead. Right. And you were very eloquent, Paris. We can suspend disbelief only so much. Unless it's fear. Fear, I don't know. Some people had a problem with that whole Charlie thing. I know I mentioned it in the stream the other day. But there was just something beautiful about Charlie wanting to die, Alicia saving her from the walker, them getting stuck in the basement, and the walker falling and breaking them out of the basement. I mean, that whole circular level of convenience. But the reason why I didn't have a problem with it is because I don't think they meant for any of the audience to take it seriously. I think it was more of a metaphor. It was more showing that how life is cyclical. I mean, I guess it just, one day you're on top, one day you're drowning in a basement. I mean, there's so many symbolic concepts you could get out of that scene. I like the fact that the writers were using a little bit of psychological warfare on us. Like, we don't care if you believe it or not, just have fun with it. But with The Walking Dead, it's that show that they try to make it as real as it possibly can be. I'm going to jump around and get a few more comments in here. Robert Anthony Eden says, how would you rank each villain from the comics? Well, Robert, I have not gotten to the Whisperers yet. But I will tell you, the Governor is by far the most vile, evil, despicable character that I've seen in a comic or in a television show. So, up to the point where I'm at, 107, 108, the governor. I'm just checking out a couple comments here. So I still think the governor was great because the actor who played him. Yeah, I mean, the TV show Governor didn't creep me out too much. So I think that's partially why I was shocked because I saw the TV show before I read the comic. So when I went back and read the comic, I was like, wow, he was nothing in the TV show compared to what he was like in the comic. I mean, I didn't like him. I thought the actor did a good job. I didn't like him in there, and certainly the Herschel scene was was a little much. And Robert Anthony, you're right. I mean, they're giving us these little teasers and these clips and these snippets of, Whisperers walking and putting on their mask and all this creepy stuff. It has to knock it out of the park. It cannot be average. It can't just be good. This storyline has to be perhaps the most important storyline of The Walking Dead. I think they're at that crossroads. I still do think, and let me kind of get back to the fair just a little bit, because no confirmation on this, but some people had asked me, a couple of these scenes, how I think the fair is going to play out. I would say maybe there's 10 to 15 whispers. They're just going to kind of be popping up there in different areas. And I feel like it's going to be one of those where you feel like the walls are sort of closing in on you a little bit. They're there, they're having a good time. And, when there's like some threat and the Secret Service or the FBI or somebody's like always looking through the crowd and you see a person's face and you see someone else. I feel like that's the way the fair is going to go down. They're there, they're trading their goods, and then this person who we don't recognize. And then you see Jerry kind of do a double take. And then Alpha's in there, and she's sort of talking to Earl. And then someone else is over in a different area. And it's sort of like you're trying to figure out, like, wait a minute. Is that somebody from Alexandria? Somebody we haven't seen in a while? Could that be a whisper? So I feel like we're going to be sort of picking them out, trying to figure out who's sneaking in. And these dramatic storylines are going to be happening where I just have a feeling Earl and Alpha, we're going to find out her psyche because he's going to do something to set her off and she's going to kill his wife. I mean, I think that's the type of thing that is really going to show us early on, like, whoa, what Earl did is not even that extreme, and that's the consequence for it. So, and in Beta's a whole different level. Alpha's going to snap her fingers, and he's just going out there relentless, like a bulldozer, just running over stuff. So she's got all of those resources at her disposal. I mean, that's the way I think the season's going to play out, where it's just very eerie, quick, spontaneous, people dying without, you wouldn't think that would cause their death, but Alpha's just going to be like that. Got a super chat up here. So we got Lee George. Can the TV audience handle the true horror of what the Whisperers will do to the survivors if they couldn't handle the horror of Glenn's death? That is a very good question. And Lee, this is the way that I'm gonna answer that. The most memorable scene in the history of The Walking Dead for me is Negan beating Glenn down into the ground, the truck headlights shining on him, and him laughing, joking, dancing, and not stopping. To a point that I've only seen it once. So, of all the awesome things that's happened on The Walking Dead, and all the things that I love about the show, that's the most memorable part of the show. Now, if you have a different scene, certainly you have that right, you have that prerogative. But I feel like Alpha needs a signature moment. So I'm going to throw this out there to the group. What do you think? And I'll throw this out to the Whisperers as well. What do you think is Alpha's signature moment? What do you think is going to be that one? I don't think it can be 5. I don't think it can be 6. I think there has to be one thing that is going to make us feel like that Glenn scene. And I think there's 3 possibilities. Well, 4 possibilities. And I'm going to kind of rank them in order of possibility. I may even add a 5th. I may cut it down to a 3rd. But let me kind of go in rank of importance. Okay, one scene that we've heard, I'm going to use the word semi-confirmed, so if you don't want to know potential spoilers, turn away now. I'm not 100% on this one. If you had to ask me, will this happen, I'm going to say there's a 87.2% chance this will happen. All right, so I'm pretty comfortable. I don't think this would be tremendous impact, but I do think it would set the tone. So apparently, when they visit, there is one of the Whisperers has a baby. The baby makes some noise. Alpha leaves the baby behind for walkers. Now the baby gets rescued, is what we're hearing. But that's not just it. That would be one of a few. So if they weren't going to have her have a signature moment, it's going to be like, whoa, she did this, she did this, she did that. I don't think that's going to be as good as if she had that one big, wow, I can't believe that. So something that's a little higher stage than that, to me, is apparently when they get back to the camp, she kills the boyfriend of the woman that had the baby and decapitates him. And apparently that's the first person she decapitates. And then makes her watch, and then she kills the other one. She stabs her to death as well. Now, how that's done, and if it is emotionless, that's going to have an impact, but it's not going to have the same impact that killing Glenn did, because we love Glenn. So if Alpha kills one of her own, whatever, who cares? We don't care if they kill each other. I mean, we don't like them. So it shows you how evil they are, but I don't think that's a signature moment. So there's two. Now the last two have to do with a character and a character that would impact another person. So the second possible signature moment, I would think, would be killing Ezekiel at the fair in a very brutal way. I think because we love Ezekiel, and I think if Ezekiel was decapitated and his face was reanimating, I think that would be disturbing to a lot of us. Skinning him, I mean, any of those things. And I think the most honestly impactful to me would be killing Henry and decapitating Henry, and what it would do to Carol and what it would do to everybody else. Even though Henry is not our favorite, everything that Carol's been through tells me that a Henry death would be very, very, that would be a signature moment. And, oh, by the way, and he's going to be mile marker number 27 in case you ever decide to go into our territory. You're going to have to look at this. I would rank that up there with Glenn if it's done the right way. And I do think it would be a signature moment because of, there's several ways to break a person. Maggie was broken because she had to watch the thing with Glenn, and Carol would be broken. I think permanently broken. I don't know if Carol could recover from that, so that would concern me. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But there's a lot more drama that's going to go down with the Whisperers and a lot more things that we still have to discuss and have to break down. And what do you know, everybody? It's 62 minutes. Did that fly by? Was that super, super fast? I mean, is it Whisperer chat that makes our nights go by quickly? So with that, I am absolutely going to wind it down because you guys know what we're going to do. We're going to get here tomorrow night. And if you guys are going to be here tomorrow night, then you give me a quick 999 because I'm going to say, hey, I want you to be here, and also I'm going to give you a shout out. So it was super, super fast. We got Mystics, one of the Whisperers out there, says, good night. Don't let the Whisperers bite, even though we stab. That was kind of poetic. I like that. I do want to do a few shout outs because you guys are absolutely incredible and amazing, and I like hanging out with you guys every night. So we're going to start out with the patrons in the top left-hand corner. Patrons, third-party website, support our channel, do a lot of awesome stuff. When we do contests, we do events. When we do charitable contributions, those guys help make this channel tick. And also, advertising in the channel is sponsored by the Patreon. So an amazing group of people up there. If you guys are interested in becoming a Patreon, there's a link down in the comments below. Also, the sponsors in the top right-hand corner. They're absolutely amazing as well. So thank you for everything that you guys do. We've got super chatters in the house. Look at these super chatters. The button lights back up and people start clicking on that button. We got Villar, thank you so much. My man Scott Kernan with multiple super chats. Westwood Chronic throwing a little bit of humor at you. Appreciate that. William Finney as well, Lee George, and also Mystics. Thank you everybody for everything that you guys do. And now a whole lot of the 909 Army. I want to say what's up to Lakeisha Faze and also Uncle Creepy, Mitch Puddin, Bumblebee Brown, Samantha Coombs, Gamma, my moderators, by the way, Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kells. What a great group of people. Dedicated, awesome, insightful, all of the above. Moderators absolutely rock. Sam B., Julia Muse, Julia Drums, Edwin Gonzalez, Albert Author, Jason Mixologist Daily. What's up, Jason? Diana C., Damon Dorizio, thank you so much. Ron Burgundy Moore, Walani, Amy Ferrero, William Finney, Robert Anthony Yeadon, thank you. Angie Homan, Heart of Nixie, Kimberly G. Thank you, Kimberly G. BK Harp, Leanne Gash. Thank you, Deborah Johnson. Have a good night. By the way, everybody, don't forget to pike that like button. Hit that like button. I promise. There will be no negative consequences at all if you hit that like button. Who else we got? We got Alejandro Martini. Thank you so much. Krampus. Appreciate you being here. Sheila Mack, Dark Stark Killer, Jim 09. Joyce Andrews, Thank you. Who else we got here? I know we got a few more. Walking Dead Nerd, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And hey, just one more reminder, if you guys like hanging out with us, make sure you subscribe. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to our other channels, 999 Gaming and also 999 Army, we're doing random things chat over there. We're going to do some comic book reads on the 999 Army, so make sure you subscribe to all three. Hit the little bell, and then when we do a live stream, you'll be reminded. You can also join us on our Facebook fan page, The Walking Dead 999 Army. 800 and maybe 40 people over there as well. So an awesome group of people. You know, memes, stuff, Daryl Dixon fan club. All of those things happen over there. So appreciate you guys. Thank you, Gamma. Appreciate you being here as well. And Lee George, have a good night. If I missed you for any reason in the shout-outs, it's never intentional. I'll just do one big super shout-out for everybody I missed. And Michelle M., thank you so much. And I'll try to do better tomorrow night. Be here at 9:30 tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you then. Peace.